Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics others fear, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same labor and Tories. A stage, it isn't our part to play, is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Belfast Bapcast. We welcome back this evening Kevin Annett, a man who has been silenced, exiled, and defrocked for telling the kind of truth that burns through institutions. Bear with me 1 second, there's a bit of reverb in the audio here. So, a former minister of the United Church of Canada, Kevin exposed systematic child abuse, trafficking, and murder within church-run residential schools long before it became mainstream news. For decades, he stood as a whistleblower against all the corporate church state cartel, naming names and paying the price. But tonight, he's going further. We'll be exploring the alleged Vatican hit network known as Santa Alleanza, the mysterious death of a Mormon leader, and the rumored assassination of Charlie Kirk. Threads that, when woven together, may point to deeper war between religious powers, puppets, and prophetic deception. So, this isn't just gossip, the value of institutional religion. So, Kevin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
So, let's start directly. What do you know about the alleged assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, well, there's an interesting connection forming about all that. First of all, I should explain for folks who don't know that since the summer, there's been another international common law court investigation going on that eventually issued summonses against the present so-called Pope, Robert Prevost, and other top officials, including the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, showing based on eyewitness testimonies and documents right out of the Vatican and other sources that these people are all involved in a network of child sacrificial rituals known as the Ninth Circle, which has been happening in the Church of Rome for many centuries. And as part of that, the more we looked into it, the more we saw connections with the Mormon Church, because the Mormons are almost as rich as the Church of Rome. They've got over 160 billion in assets. And you'll notice that Charlie Kirk was killed in Salt Lake City, or just south of Salt Lake City on a university campus. And the sources we have, including from Interpol and other people we've worked with over the years, is that there's a assassination group within the Church of Rome called Santa Alleanza. And they were responsible, for example, the murder of John Paul I in 1978, when he began looking into the Vatican Bank and the mafia connections there. And Santa Alleanza, according to our sources, was involved in killing Charlie Kirk, along with their counterpart in the Mormon Church. They're called the Danites. And they basically get rid of anyone who opposes the will of, their equivalent of their Pope, which is a guy called Russell Nelson. They call the prophet. Well, Russell Nelson died the other day, on the same day that a Mormon church in Michigan was shot up and 4 people were killed. Kind of standard distraction event. Soon after Charlie Kirk gets killed in Salt Lake City. Now, we know that Charlie Kirk was a close confidant of Trump, that Trump had ordered the killing of at least 2 people we know of, 3 actually, Virginia Giuffre, who was an eyewitness to his relationship with Epstein, and 2 Deutsche Bank officers who were involved in getting very controversial illegal loans to Trump International, and then they both died very soon after that. One of them was on the way to deliver documents to the FBI, when he dies conveniently in Florida. So there's that whole connection developing, linking the Mormon Church, the Vatican, and getting rid of people who potentially could be embarrassing, people who have the knowledge of what's going on behind this big cabal, right, called the Church of Rome. That's some of the evidence that's come out. There's a lot of other interesting stuff too, showing in both Europe and America and Ireland the whole long history of not only this ninth circle sacrificial cult, but various programs connected to it. Like we know, for example, that the military researchers who were doing early mind control experiments were using these ceremonies where children are ritually tortured and killed to test the limits of how the human brain operates under stress, to make the perfect soldier, right? A lot of the early drug testing, the microchip bioweaponry and that, all of them using children in these ceremonies. So there's a lot of interconnection between big money, the military, the church, these satanic cults. Another guy linked to that is a guy called Albert Bourla, who's the CEO of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and really been pushing the whole COVID drugs and everything. He was in attendance, like all these other guys who were named in the indictment against him, all participants in these ninth circle ceremonies. So you can see a lot of that background at murderbydecree.com under the last two postings at ITCCS Updates. That's the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State, which has been around since 2010. In fact, we set it up in Dublin in June of 2010 with a lot of survivors from Ireland and other countries. So the important thing is that the verdict of the court is coming out this week. There'll be an announcement about that. I'll send you all the information about it. And the good thing this time, it's the very first case we did against Pope Benedict, Joseph Ratzinger, that forced him out, along with Cardinal Sean Brady in Ireland and other top cardinals. That didn't have the power that we have now in terms of enforcement, because we've had the promise from a number of governments around the world to help enforce the verdict. That is, help arrest these people, seize their property and assets. And for a long time, any Catholic church in the world can be lawfully seized by people as reparations for their proven crimes of genocide. There's international law. There's a thing called the Transnational Criminal Organization, TNCO, and any group that not only commits crime, for example, trafficking and killing children, which the church does, but launders money for the mafia, deals in illegal arms trades, all the things that Church of Rome and its Vatican Bank portfolio does. It means that when a TNCO is in operation, people have the right to seize their assets and not let them operate because they're going to commit crime with it. Well, that's why we were so successful when we began occupying Catholic churches, and the police never intervened because they know that we were right, that these people are using their money and their property and that to harm children and do crime. So it's a tremendous weapon people have against not only the Catholic Church, but any criminal body, hiding behind the robes of religion. And so that's all, encouraging for people. And we want to make sure that this verdict and the follow-up gets out to people so they can take action in their own communities about all this. Sorry, I can't hear you at all. Your mic is not operating or something.
Hello, can you hear me
Hi,
now?
I can hear. Yeah, I hear you now. Yep.
Sorry, I was just going to say the likes of Trump may not be directly Catholic, but is Jesuit trained, and half of the CIA and the intelligence service as well, Jesuit trained. So that it all interlinks back into the Catholic system as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And when you think of the other day, somebody said to me, Kev, you're kind of like Spartacus, who led the rebellion against Rome. And I said, why is that? He said, well, you're taking on the Roman Empire, and that's all the Church of Rome has ever been, right? And it's, financial reach. It's, when I was in Italy for the first time, one of the senators there said to me that that the Catholic Church funds every political party in every major country in the world. And, so I mean, its tentacles go everywhere, as you know, right?
Yeah, and even for many years, that's what the Jesuit order was used for, to be advisors to the government. The Japanese, I think, threw them out 2 or 3 separate times.
Yeah.
But I mean, the world is now wise to these sorts of things. But with the verdict coming out this week, what day is it coming out? And
it's actually coming out on Monday. And what I'll do is I'll send you all of the documents. It's all going to be posted online. Everything that's been discussed, all the evidence and that.
And with regards to Charlie Kirk, you think it looks like a straightforward Vatican cleanup job?
Yeah, I mean, like they say, all roads lead to Rome, especially having to do with financial stuff. Like, I guess people know that well over 80% of all the bank deposits in the world are channeled through the Vatican Bank. And so, yeah, that's one of the ways you trace it. But also, one of the guys who provide, and this is in the report of the, in the verdict, it's going to mention this, that one of the good sources is a guy called Keith Schiller, who used to be the bodyguard of Trump. And he was present, and this is mentioned in the evidence, Keith Schiller was present when Trump was at an Epstein party in the spring of 1999 in his Manhattan high-rise, right? And not far from the Trump headquarters in Manhattan. And he saw a young Asian girl, about 5 years old, used in a snuff film ritual, where she was tortured, raped, and killed on film, at which Trump was present along with Epstein. And Schiller was one of the, it's funny, when all of these people were served summonses.
Your sound's gone completely there. Don't.
Sorry?
Your sound's gone completely.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me? Are you getting any sound?
Anything, sorry.
Hello? Testing. Can you hear me?
Both having technical issues here.
Oh, yeah. Or interference.
Can't hear a thing. Sorry.
No?
Oh, no, can now, yes.
How about now?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. I'll just carry on then. Did you hear the part of what I mentioned about the Manhattan party where Trump was present? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just describing that the source we have, the former bodyguard of Trump, a guy called Schiller. And okay, he was present at the Epstein and Trump party in Manhattan in spring of 1999, where a young girl was tortured to death on film. And he wanted to make a deal. Keith Schiller wanted to make a deal with the court where he wouldn't be prosecuted in return for that testimony. Well, they didn't make a deal with him because he was a Ninth Circle participant too. And he was basically pressured to disclose that evidence. And it's a fairly damning piece of evidence because it's accompanied by the eyewitness testimony of one of the young girls who was also present and raped at that party. We have testimony of quite a few survivors of the Ninth Circle now. And so he and another guy, the former moderator of the United Church, a guy called Gary Patterson, they both wanted to make a deal and inform on others. So that's a good sign when they start breaking their ranks and informing on each other. It means it's coming apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show the levels of loyalty also.
Yeah, that's true.
Whenever stuff starts getting a wee bit tight, then just turn on each other. Well, Trump has really started to show his true colors anyway in regards to his America First campaign anyway, with his Israel First stance. And I mean, even his most staunch base can't really deny that anymore, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a convicted felon and a convicted rapist, and you know, the very fact he'd be allowed to be in the Oval Office is a statement on America as well, how far it's degenerated, I think.
Yeah, very much. And how easily he fooled everybody as well. I mean, he just had to act like a buffoon and say a few popular things, and he fooled half of, or if not more.
Well, that's the impression that's sometimes created in the corporate media. But don't forget, there's the old saying, anyone can see through a lie unless they have need of the lie. And Americans, you know, a lot of them, a good half of the electorate, have to have the need that they're riding the saddle again. They're number one in the world, and they put any demagogue in who tells them that. It's like a priest or a politician will say what you want to hear, right? And have you that way. They try to capture people that way. But you know, I've talked to a lot of people who were stupid enough to vote for him, who have, you know, torn up the Republican Party membership cards now. They're, you know, he's showing, like you say, he's showing what's behind the mask, and you know, it's up to people now. As a convicted felon, we have every right to detain him and tell the police and military forces in America and other countries that he needs to be detained. Otherwise, there's no law. There's no rule of law, right? He needs to be in jail.
I think on the whole, it's pretty clear to see there's no rule of law when it comes to the higher echelons. And just going back to the Mormon leader, now obviously he was, what, 101, I think?
Yeah.
Well, so is it just the circumstances surrounding his death that is
it's a lot more
suspicious?
It's a lot more than that. You see, for a number of years, I worked with Mormons who they have a very similar system in the Mormon Church to in the Church of Rome, the Ninth Circle. This one girl, Asia Dutson, was raised in this intergenerational cult in the Mormon Church, where she was taken and raped. She saw Russell Nelson, who was actually trained as a physician. She saw him experiment on young children and rape them and torture them. She saw him strangle to death children who were being kept in cages under the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City. The temple was linked by tunnel to the local Catholic cathedral, where children are being regularly trafficked. This man was a nightmare. And yet a few years ago, there he is having a special audience with, quote, Pope Francis in Rome. He and all the top Mormon leaders, because the Catholics just allowed the Mormons to open a huge cathedral in downtown Rome, even though they consider them a, quote, pagan cult. There they are, right? So they're partners in crime. That's the point, the Mormons and the Catholics. And financially, you know, and also in terms of these horrible ritual killings of children, but also their ties with China. You see, a lot of this is about the Vatican Bank funds are heading east into the BRIC alliance and into the Chinese camp. And my own theory about why Nelson died now is he was part of the Mormon Old Guard, and he opposed that. He didn't want, you know, the money to go to China, and that was another reason they got rid of him. He was just in the way. And you know, there's so much at stake with all this money that anyone who's even mildly in the way or might stand the chance of being in the way has to be eliminated quick, because they might talk, they might implicate others. So, you know, I don't think it's rocket science. It's pretty obvious who's behind these things. You know?
There's quite a high Mormon presence in the FBI, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CIA and the FBI both recruit inordinately out of the Mormon Church.
Because they're so subordinate, or
Well, when you look at them, and I know my grandmother was actually a lapsed Mormon, and I learned a lot at a young age about them. They're like a big social engineering cult, and their methods of mind control in the Mormon Church are as extreme as someone who's raised in the Catholic Church, and so they're a pre-made mind control population. So naturally, you want to, if you're the government and the police and that, you need to recruit those people because they can then be programmed to be sleeper assassins, spies, whatever, right? And so the Mormons were very involved, like the Catholic Church, with these rituals where children were being, they were doing pain threshold experiments, military-funded things, like I mentioned earlier, about, how to make the brain operate under torture and pressure better, and all of that. I mean, it's, so it's all these links are going to the
obviously
same source.
the main link, or the main conspiracy going around about Charlie Kirk at the moment is that it was an Israeli hit, but that's being perpetrated by Candace Owens, who is a Roman Catholic.
Yeah, to distract attention, real culprits, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it adds up. And I mean, there's many occasions she's been used for that purpose as well. Whether or not she knows it or not.
Right.
But I would say she's aware. So with the Mormon Church and the Roman Church, how do you think they operate with such impunity in these security agencies and intelligence agencies?
Well, a lot of money, a lot of government and judicial support. I learned this when I was a Protestant minister on the west coast of Canada, and 30 years ago, I got fired and defrocked, my family destroyed over this stuff, blacklisted. And what I learned right away, there was one of the judges in my case, in my family court case, I actually knew him, and he said to me, kind of on the side, "You don't really think there's a separation of church and state in Canada or anywhere in the world, do you, Kev? Because you stepped on big toes. You stepped on the fact that the church had been killing children. No judge will last 3 minutes on the bench if he ever takes on the Church of Rome, and especially in Canada, because the whole civil service is French from Quebec. They're all Catholics. They don't even operate under common law, but the Napoleonic code. So what I learned was the major churches, like the Church of England as well, and others, they're above the law. They operate according to their own law. And in fact, during my defrocking, the Attorney General actually wrote to me because I complained about what a kangaroo court it was. And he said, the internal processes of a church are outside the jurisdiction of our ministry, i.e., outside the laws of Canada. They're a law unto themselves. That's the first thing to understand. They can kill with impunity. And it's always been that way. We know, anyone who knows the history of, the Church of Rome knows that that's how they operate. They kill anyone they want. It's a license to kill and rape. Their policy of crimen solicitana says when children are raped by priests, everyone is silenced. The police are not to be told. That's a criminal conspiracy right there, and yet they get away with it.
And the Church of England went under the exact same banner,
Right.
like it was only a number of years ago. Queen Elizabeth signed
the Hollywood Agreement.
Yeah,
Summer 2010. They signed the Hollywood Agreement, which brought the Church of England back into the fold, right, of the Antichrist. Yeah. And that should have got her, she should have been deposed on the spot because she violated her coronation oath right there.
Well, yeah, but we both know that's not going to happen, or certainly not anymore anyway. But
in that regard, Mark, just let me mention something. Charles Windsor and Andrew Windsor both named in the indictment as well. We had new people come forward, seeing them. This is King Charles III, right, so-called,
Yeah.
and they
Cross
were
his
present.
fingers.
These eyewitnesses from Germany as young girls were present when they were taken to Buckingham Palace into the sub-basement areas, and they were present when they saw again these 9 circle rituals with Philip, Charles, Andrew, and a whole family and others involved, Mountbatten, people like that.
It's like, even to look at that family, you just know they're not like
Yeah.
you or I. They don't even look the same species, really, to be fair. I don't know whether that's due to many years of interbreeding or what, but like they're just so detached from humanity. And it's clear in the way that their disregard, and for children especially.
Yeah, power will do that to people, but you're right. There's these so-called like different bloodlines. Russell Nelson in the Mormon church, why did he live to 101? Well, according to April Dutson and these other people, other Mormons, it wasn't just adrenochrome, but they do, rituals that they believe extend life. It's parasitic on the energy of children. And, who knows that, the depravities, sky's the limit on this stuff, right?
Well, I suppose to the average person, it's hard just to imagine being like in that mindset or in that world. I mean, how do you get so depraved that that's your choice of thing? It's just absolutely insane. And I know, like, within these groups, it's like they all compromise each other so that
Right.
they're all sort of. But like, Jesus Christ, I mean, where's your humanity here?
Well, that's the thing, and the problem was people don't want to believe it. They call it the will to disbelieve. That's the greatest protection these criminals have, right? And the fact that legally they're above their set of laws, but under international law and the law of nature, we have every right to, bring these people down, because there's that famous quote Cromwell used all the time in the execution of King Charles the First, when he said, "Be you ever so high, you are not above the law." That is God's law, the law of morality, and not statute law, but the common law, and that's the basis on which we prosecute and brought these people down. And you guys know about the the Choom babies that were found, the 800 corpses in that thing in Choom, Ireland. Well,
Yeah.
Cardinal Sean Brady is the one who covered all that up, and he was one of the ones we bounced out, right? Forced into resignation. Now, of course, he's living, I don't even know if he's still alive, but he's living on a pension somewhere. And people says, well, how can you ever stop these people? Well, you can. The Church of Rome is very vulnerable. And we proved that. The thing that forced out this apology in Canada in 2008 is it was 2 weeks after we had just occupied the main Catholic cathedrals in Toronto and Vancouver. And, that shook them up. That hit them off guard, and because it's striking at their public image and their money in the collection plate. And we found that too. I had a great experience in Dublin.
You also had attempts in your life over the head of this as well. So it's not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they're just shrinking into the background.
No, that's true. But they have a lot more to lose than I do, right? So they kill me.
That's right.
The truth is out there, right? And they're more vulnerable. That's the point. Sun Tzu in The Art of War always reminds us that your enemy, a bigger adversary, is more vulnerable than you. Therefore, they're easier to provoke. They're more afraid than you are, even though they've got all this camouflage they can hide that behind. And but I remember one morning in I think it was 2010, a woman in the north end of Dublin who I was staying with, Mary Kelly. She was an old woman in her 70s, and she went into Pro Cathedral, and there was only about 30 people there in a church of 500 or something. And she got up and began to read the Catholic policy on crimen solicitanus, which I mentioned before, orders everyone to cover up child rape. And she said, your children are at stake. Your children are at risk by coming into this church. The priest tried to grab her She turns around and cold cocks the priest, knocks him cold right on the pulpit, right? And then walks out. And the police didn't do anything because they all knew her, right? They had grown up there and everything. So, I mean, that's what I mean. Like they're like a straight line in a joke. They're just, it's very easy to disrupt these people. And that's why we, in Canada, Native groups have gone and just taken over the Catholic churches in their territories, just ordered the priest out, taken over the church, start operating it as a community center.
Why do you think so many of these groups have got so much more arrogant though in just doing things out in the open?
Which groups?
Like the Vatican, like the deep state, just all these nefarious groups. I mean, they're quite happy to tell you, what they're doing.
Oh, because that's bluff. You see that it's like as their whole tower begins to crumble, which it is, they have to bluff all the more that they're really all powerful. Perfect example of that. That BS about papal infallibility. They have a rule that when the Pope is on the throne, he's infallible, right? Cannot make an error. That came in right after Garibaldi, who was kind of like the Italian George Washington. He united the country in the 1870s. He had just deposed the papal states. The Pope had just lost all power. And so he responds to me saying, oh yeah, I'm infallible. First Vatican Council announces infallibility. They didn't even have a majority of cardinals in favor of it. He just announces it. And everyone all faithfully believes this now. It's garbage. It was because he was losing power, so he had to bluff. And that's what's going on now. They're bluffing. Their system is in real crisis. And the fact that the head of NATO is indicted now for child rape and murder, that has huge repercussions because they're rattling sabers with Russia. This is going to have a real impact, like the last one did with Ratzinger. And they just they're always trying to convince people that they're all powerful, and it's not true, right?
Did you witness Trump at United Nations and his teleprompter incident?
No, what was that?
The teleprompter stopped working, and all of a sudden he was unable to speak. And just started saying stuff like, one thing I know for sure is whoever's operating this teleprompter is in trouble. He just lost the way to say that he just shoots from the hip and he's this great orator. But
right,
the moment the teleprompter was down, he was just disarmed.
Yeah, he has a personality very similar to Adolf Hitler, where he's like a criminal psychopath, really. And it's all about him. Whenever he makes a statement, it's not America. He says, I am going to do this. I am going to do that, like he's the king, right? And that's how he views himself, writing all these executive orders. One man saying, I'm the king. I'm going to make this law. Everyone has to follow it. The real question isn't why he does that. He's a megalomaniac. The question is, why does everybody go along with it? Pretending the emperor has clothes, right?
Yeah, I think Americans are more gullible to a large degree politically, I think, than the rest of the world. Like, they are so diehard about their political rallies. It's insane. They treat their politicians like cult of personality and like celebrities. And it's literally been interchangeable parts of the same dragon for years, guys. And you've got zero change.
Yeah, that's why I like coming to Europe, because folks over there know so much more about history and politics. And, Americans live in a bubble, they live in the past, and it's just really hard to get through to a lot of them.
Oh, very much, and especially like the fundamentalists, right? They blindly support, Trump. They blindly support Israel, out of some misguided interpretation of Bible, whereas if they actually read the Bible, it's not telling them to support Israel at all. But it's just scary. It's just scary that there's still so many people believing in the political discourse and believing that, there's hope in a politician, or there's hope in the current systems, when clearly they've done nothing but fail us year after year, decade after decade, and system after system, And it's the 2 to 3%, the people that actually want change are treated like lunatics, and
Yeah. Well, none of that changes the fact that their system is crumbling, and that's one of the reasons we hold these common law courts, not just to bring down criminals in office, but to build up an alternative for people. Like we form local republic assemblies. In England, they've just announced a republic.
I'll be on, yeah.
Yeah. And I said to them, look, our success in Canada has come from the fact that in our Republic of Canada, we hold local republic assemblies. 12 or more people sign a charter, you can pass laws in your community. Bring in your own sheriffs and courts. That way, when the system comes down, we got something to build it with. And the same thing happened in Ireland during the Civil War. Remember, you'd set up Brehon law courts outside the jurisdiction of the crown. So you built a new society alongside the old empire, right? And that's kind of our strategy. And it really works because it gives people a chance to build something in their own name and not rely on others, right?
Just to jump back to Charlie Kirk for a wee moment. So outside of what you've heard from your sources, etc., have you been watching much of the coverage, like Erica Kirk, and like what do you make of her body language? Like everything about her just screams like she's an asset, like she's been placed there as his wife. Like it's insane. She's just like,
yeah. Well, when you take somebody out, the family are all told, and I get this all the time when I work with Native people and their family members are killed in obvious ways, like William Coombs, who saw Queen Elizabeth take those children from the school and then they were never seen again. All of his family were told right to back off after he was killed in the hospital by arsenic poisoning. And at the higher level, like what you're talking about, Mrs. Kirk, of course she's playing their game. Otherwise, she'd be dead too, right? So the amount of fog generated after an official hit like that is incredible. You hear all sorts of stories like, oh, he was never killed. He's actually somewhere else. It was just a fake story. Nobody knows what to believe after a while, right? And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah. And obviously we all know not to believe the official narrative. That's always a good start point.
Yeah.
I mean, it always falls to pieces within the first 24 to 48 hours. That wee guy, there was two different video references. Often one, he was wearing shorts, and the other, he was wearing trousers. And I mean, they're not even cohesive with their fakery. It's quite scary, but it seems to have such a profound effect on the world, really. And for people that didn't even know Charlie Kirk, why is this? It's obviously been set up for this purpose,
I don't know. It's it's kind of like the JFK assassination. People will debate this for years, but it's never like that. In that JFK movie, one of the sources for Jim Garrison, who was investigating the hit on Kennedy, right? He said all sorts of stuff is put out there, to distract people, but there's always three fundamental questions: who had the power to do that? Who had the means to cover it up, and who benefited? And just answer those three questions, and it goes through, dispels a lot of the fog.
Yeah. Such a public display, though, and such a ritualistic murder as well. I think that's
killing in plain sight is they're sending people a message, right? And when the heat's coming down on Trump, they're getting closer to his involvement in ordering people killed in that. So as a public warning, don't look into this, or you'll end up like Charlie. That's like same thing when I was thrown out of the United Church. I hold the distinction of being the only United Church minister ever to be publicly defrocked. Okay, so it wasn't done behind closed doors. They aired their dirty laundry publicly, and it was right when the lawsuits were beginning about the church-run Indian schools where all these kids were killed. So they defrocked me publicly to say, look what's going to happen to any other whistleblower in the church who comes forward. And it's by analogy what they did to Charlie, right?
And have you any plans in the near future of doing any touring to Europe or?
Yeah, I know, and I am. I must apologize because I did say I was coming in early October to Ireland, but it got delayed because of the court. And over in America, all this evidence started coming out, and I was needed there to work with people. So I had to delay my European trip, likely to the spring now, because it's getting later in the year. And in terms of the enforcement, there's people here who are going to try to arrest who I need to be on the scene for that. But in the spring, when the weather's nicer, I definitely want to come back and see my families in Ireland and England and do more talks, do more work. We can finally do a live one, right?
And a quick check up on there was a couple of the guys from the court who were attacked, isn't that right? The European court. Are they both okay, or?
They are. They were it was an attempted assault. And fortunately, nearby was some of their bodyguards. And they weren't killed or anything. They were harmed. And there were cyber attacks on the court as well. We had to shut down things for a while. But we have backup everywhere. And I have a guy who watches over me. And, so I mean, they can run, but they can't hide, right?
100%. So murderbydecree.com is the most important sort of central hub for you, isn't it? And then
And also, when you're on that site, look under ITCCS updates on the murderbydecree.com. That's where all the news is posted about the court verdict. It should be out, this Monday, like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And all the books are on there too, yeah.
We're expecting that to be, not shocking as such, but it's certainly going to be earth-shattering anyway.
There's quite some good things coming out, so we should all spread the word about that. And these books, Dethroning a Rogue Power, Why the Vatican Needs to be Expelled from the UN, The Nature of the Beast, and this other one on Governing Ourselves, a handbook on personal, political, spiritual sovereignty. You can get both on Amazon.com under my name.
I have all the links under the description here anyway. And where else can people follow you on socials and stuff? So you have your own YouTube channel.
I do.
It's Murder by Decree, is it?
Murder by Decree, and also a Telegram channel under Murder by Decree as well.
It's in the link. It's in the description box as well. Kevin, I know you're a very busy man. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day again, Mark. For us.
No, so
not a problem at all. And I do look forward to doing it in person when you make your way over to Ireland. And have a good day, and hopefully all goes according to plan tomorrow for the courts.
Yep.
And send me an email and keep me updated.
I sure will. I'll keep you updated and talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate it.
All the best, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. So thank you very much, guys. So if you just like, share, and subscribe, that has been myself and Kevin on the Belfast Bapcast.
Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics others fear, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same labor and Tories. A stage, it isn't our part to play, is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.